Okay, ladies and gentlemen, there are only a few dozen people on the planet today who've reached the pinnacle of our profession. You were privileged this morning to meet one of them, Marv Adams, who started as a CIO, and he's now the Chief Operating Officer of a major financial institution. You're about to meet another one, and arguably, he is the gold standard. There are very, very few people who have achieved what Filippo Passerini has achieved in his career. Filippo started at Procter & Gamble as a systems analyst in 1981 in Italy. So you can do the math. He's been in Procter & Gamble for 33 years. He rose through the ranks to become CIO in 2004. Then in 2008, he was appointed as Group President of Global Business Services. In that organization, he's one of the 4 pillars of Procter & Gamble, a famous company in its own right, but Filippo's organization is one of the 4 major elements of P&G. He has 7,000 people in his team. He looks after IT, finance, facilities, purchasing, and employee services. Beware of asking him too many questions because he has a doctorate in statistics, so he understands big data like you would never understand it. But more than anything, I would introduce Filippo as an exemplar of a big leader. And he is humble, he is authentic, he is deeply experienced, and he is charismatic. And, you know, I wish I had half of these attributes. It reminds me of the saying, leaders are only leaders if people choose to follow them. And people choose to follow Filippo willingly. And so, over to Filippo Passerini.
Good evening, good evening. It is a pleasure to be here, and I realize I'm in between you and the whole cocktail and reception, so I will try to gain the 10 minutes here and be fast. I will like to move through a few slides and then leave room for a dialogue, which is the more interesting part of the session, rather than a single monologue, which I find very, very boring, typically, particularly when it is myself doing it. I've been asked to share a few thoughts and data and opinions on the value of our strategic alliances in the BPO and ITO field. Those have been incredibly instrumental for us. I understand my friend Marv may have a different viewpoint. I'm very glad I came after him, so I can tell the story I cannot reboot. I will share. I thought long and hard about how to approach this conversation, and I've concluded that the best way to do it, the most productive way to do it, is to tell you the story behind the story, because I think there is a lot of data you can access in many ways. So rather than giving you a lot of information, I thought it would be better to be very candid, very, very sincere on what I see happening. Some of what I'm going to say may be sensitive, but I trust that we will manage this information intelligently. I would like to give you a sense for, very, very fast, how we came to the point we're at, so that we can ground all of us on the same data, and then very, very fast begin to share where we are heading and what we see happening. So with that, I want to start with what I would like you to take away from this conversation. This is what I would describe as starting with the end in mind. What is the outcome? What is the message? I continue to believe that strategic partnerships are as important as ever. I don't think there is. I'm not a dogmatic individual, so I don't believe the pendulum should swing to one extreme to the other. All outsourcing, all outsourcing, dramatic changes. I do believe there is a big role to play in really, really valuable strategic alliances. However, I believe we are at an inflection point, and many things are changing, and importantly, many things will have to change. And this is what I would like to talk in more detail. And importantly, this change is not only because of the technologies that we all know, but importantly, these technologies are enabling new business models, which is really where the business transformation comes. And finally, there are three thoughts that I've been reflecting a lot of, and I would like to talk, share, discuss with you a bit. One is, who are the true innovators of the future in this field? Secondly, what kind of relationships we should forge in the future to maximize the value? And there is a lot changing. And third, what kind of agreements we should have? And I see what we've been doing for the last many years, for the last decade, 15 years, is probably becoming obsolete very fast. So with these key takeaways in mind, this is the agenda, what the model has been up until now, why we did what we did, what was the rationale, and again, I plan to share with you as I said, the story behind the story, more than why than the what. Then the inflection point, the way we set, and then what we plan to do next. We covered my background. I was born and raised in Rome. I was a happy camper in Rome throughout my development. And then after 6 years, we left. We never went back. And we've been a bit of international gypsy ever since then. A short snapshot on Procter & Gamble. The key data point of about 5 billion consumers we serve highlights the importance, and this has been a dramatic change over the last few years, of having operations which are incredibly reliable. And if you look at the service levels in a classic PPO, the way they were organized years ago and the way they will need to be, it is dramatically different. And we are seeing this change in the world, of course, through the Nokias, the Blackberries, Sony, and many others. So we are in a world where in short 2-3 years, things change dramatically, and this is the need, in my view, to continue to anticipate what is coming rather than reacting. Reacting is a very dangerous way to operate in this field. These are, again, to quickly ground all of us on P&G to give you a sense of why we are operating, why we're thinking the way we're thinking. And these are the top brands. I hope you recognize them all. Actually, I hope you are dependent on most of them, and you cannot leave your house in the morning without using at least 4 or 5 of them. And I can tell here who is using Gillette and who is not. And there are 3 gentlemen who are not. And I recommend you fix the issue immediately because it is visible. It is visible that 3 of you are not using Fusion. So with that, clearly partnerships are I believe very important. This is the point I will try to articulate, but the how the value is being created is changing significantly, is changing very, very fast. So quickly on our journey to give you a sense of what is the story here. We created about 14, 15 years ago a shared services organization that since became the most global organization within Procter & Gamble. We do operate our brands in our categories globally, but within that, as Jim indicated, of the 4 pillars of P&G, this is certainly the most global of all. We are fixated on being relevant for the business. I fear commoditizing the work we do, because if we become a commodity, we're up for cost, and the value creation becomes very, very narrow. So I am obsessed by the distinctiveness in our business value and the value we bring to the business. This is something that we ask ourselves every single day. Are we relevant? Can be more relevant? How to stay relevant? And all the BPO, all the ITO, all the outsourcing, what I like to call strategic sourcing more than outsourcing, was a critical part of being relevant in the business, not only from a cost standpoint, but importantly to free up capacity to drive innovation and value creation for P&G at a whole new level. And then we are a very centralized model. This is always a controversial point. I believe it is not an either or between being effective for the individual business units or being centralized. I think is an end. We are embedded in the businesses, but eventually all those 7,000 P&G people plus another 8,000-9,000 people we have working with us as partners from the outside. They eventually all roll up to me, and this gives us a lot of flexibility, a lot of ability to respond fast, which in large organizations, you know, sometimes can become a big challenge. What we stand for is transforming the way business is done. I know it may sound a bit esoteric for shared services, for a technology organization, but I can tell you that this has been a game changer for us. Because the metaphor we use is that people running services are a service manager within the organization is like a brand manager within Procter & Gamble. Everybody within Procter & Gamble knows what a brand manager is, what he or she stands for. And so when we created a sense of we're running services as a brand, people immediately understood what that meant. It is about innovation, it is about cost, it is about accountability for the brand end-to-end, or for the service end-to-end, which includes all the components from re-engineering the work, technology, automation. This has truly been, from a cultural standpoint, a big mindset shift. And then, of course, we support with the training, with all the tools, but this idea of transforming the way the business is done, because we declare we are the organization who has the best integration of information, analytics, capabilities, and then the ability to re-engineer the work. We believe we are uniquely position within Procter & Gamble to play such a leadership role in the business. So we make this declaration, and then we started, again, as I said, about 13, 14 years ago, our creation of shared services consolidation. Like for any company, the idea was to create economy of scale, to bring centrally all the financial, HR, procurement, facilities, services, about 170 in total, employee and business related, that were fragmented across different brands, different geographies. So again, no surprise here, the intent was consolidation in lower cost location, salary arbitrage. We created mega centers in Manila for Asia, in Costa Rica for North and South America, plus another satellite centers. And of course, people are on the ground in all the 100 countries in which P&G operates. But then again, no surprise, was about standardization, was about optimization. Here, we were able to reduce a lot of cost, a lot of hundreds of millions of dollars. However, we thought we were reaching a plateau, and so we asked ourselves, after we centralized, but the pictorial, the visual is meant to show this siloed approach. We brought all these services together, but they were disconnected. We asked ourselves what new sources of value creation we can generate. How can we continue to reduce cost beyond what we've been able to do ourselves? Then, most importantly, how can we variabilize our cost so that we can respond to the surge in demand or times where we may need less work? And importantly, how can we move from cost reduction to more of an innovative organization, creating new business models for the business? So with that, we moved into a second phase, which was the years, 3-4 years after that. So now we are talking the mid-2000s. And the intent was exactly that: continue to improve the service quality, more business innovation. And with that, this is how we went into this, at the time was the largest outsourcing ever in the industry. I think still is. It was about $4.2 billion. We did it very fast. I do believe that the quality and speed got together. I believe those 3-4 year negotiations can become very dysfunctional pretty fast. So we did force ourselves also to get the organization to relax a bit, because it created, as you can imagine, as you know, a lot of anxiety in the organization. So we moved fast, and this has been successful. So some of the results in this year was a significant cost reduction, about 1/3 of our cost. And that added 3 margin points to the company's bottom line. Was $1.2 billion in cost reduction. Service levels went up very, very nicely. And so the idea that we wanted to reduce cost and improve the quality of the operations did materialize. And finally, this chart is a little bit complicated, but to make it very, very simple, each bubble here is one of our big projects, and the size of the bubble is a proxy for the complexity, number of people, revenue, number of countries. And so the intent of this chart over a 20-year period is to show that over the last 5-6 years, we've been able to generate much more work for P&G. So in this phase, which was a bit of a classic outsourcing, we were able to reduce cost pretty fairly nicely, about this $1.2 billion, 1/3 of our base cost, service level sub, and more work. But then again, we reached another plateau point. So we again, the question once again was, what is coming next? How can we drive a breakthrough? And so the pictorial here, the visual, is meant again to show that while in the second phase, we were able to bring in a number of partners and then less of a silo and more of an interconnection, still the components were somewhat independent. And with the third phase, we moved into more of a modular, more of an integrated business model. And we felt it was important to achieve the next level to drive better collaboration between partners, not just of every single partner with us, but importantly create a network of collaboration. And we continued to shift more and more to cost reduction only, to value creation in a more holistic, in a more inclusive way. Again, cost continued and continues to be very, very important, but and operations and reliability. But importantly, we thought that to transform the way business is done, value creation, innovation was becoming more and more critical, and then much greater ability to respond to emerging business needs. We thought that the old model of 20, 30 years ago, where the bigger the better, if you're monolithic, integrated, you have contractual power, you can negotiate better, and therefore the big fish gets the small fish, and the bigger, the more powerful. We thought that model was not any longer valid. We thought the following model also, that the fast fish, it's the slow, which was fashionable for a number of years. And if you take the automotive sector, it is clear how who played in the first model, who played in the second model, and why things went the way they went. We thought also this model was running out of steam, and we thought a third model was emerging, that it is really the fish who knows how to network with other fishes who will be a winning fish. And so we thought it was important for us to lead this transformative way to approach the strategic alliances. And with that, we came up with a model which was a win-win. We said it's not about pulling in different direction. It is not a good idea for you. It is not a good idea for us. Let's grow the pie together. Let's move from this win-lose negotiation, squeezing out a few dollars here and a few dollars there, to rather than who is smarter to get the bigger size, the big slice of the pie. Let's move to how can we grow the pie? How can we make the pie bigger? How can we make 2 + 2 = 5? So that, very, very candidly, and this is a bit part of the story behind the story, I told our strategic partners, we want 3 things from you, and we commit to the 3 things for you in return. We want to have the best people you have, your 18 on our business. We want you to invest. We want you to bring to us your innovation first. In return, what we give you is we are the first customer. We commit to co-develop and co-innovate with you. And third, we help you commercialize to other clients. So if you make $10 with P&G, we can easily make $10, $100. And this is how we co-developed with Cisco, with SAP, with HP, their telepresence. That's how we became the company with the largest footprint in video collaboration. Part of it was a number of reference calls, hosting people to Cincinnati to show how we were using technologies and capabilities to drive, to transform the business. And this is, we have created a big messaging, a big campaign around this. And of course, it has worked very well for a number of years. And as I did for the second phase, which was about lower cost, better service levels, more capacity to do work, and the results, I want to give you a sense of the results for this third phase. In this third phase, we were able, when we acquired Gillette, we were able to integrate it in 15 months, rather than the usual 3-4 years that would take to integrate an acquisition of this size. The commitment we made to the financial market was $1.2 billion in synergy savings per annum, per year. So I told my people, well, $1.2 billion is $100 million per month. This is 80 money. It is $3 million per day, dear friends. So $3 million per day is material. If we do 2 weeks faster, it's $50 million. If we delay 1 month, we lose $100 million. So we started with the idea of what has to be through to do it in half of the time. We created new tools and capabilities, and the long story short is that we were able to integrate Gillette into Procter & Gamble in 15 months. But the point I want to make here, and the reason why I bring this example up, is because the partners were instrumental to do it. I moved to Gillette project instantaneously within 10 days, about 700 of our people. But our partners did the same within a few weeks with 600 of their people. And it would have been impossible without having this solid strategic relationships in place, because, as you know very well, if you have to hire contractors and people by the time you do it, several months will be already gone. Having these people there who knew our operations well gave us an instantaneous ramp up. On the innovation side, I got fixated on visualization, so we have eliminated 20,000 standard reports and moved into cockpits, where my idea was we manage the business by exception rather than getting every day thousands of data points which we may simply not need. So the idea was drill down, control charts, color coding. We moved into visualization and virtualization. What you see there is a supermarket shelf, but this is not physical, it is completely virtual. So we don't do now physical mock-ups anymore of our packaging when we create a new product. We do completely virtual. So the typical cycle times of 6-7 weeks to create a physical mock-up to get consumer feedback on the artwork, on the packaging design, and typically we would do 3-4 cycles of physical mock-ups. Now we have eliminated completely, we do virtually, and so we've been able to accelerate innovation of our products to market significantly, and of course, reduce all the cost. Again, this innovation came as a result of the third phase, where we were able to move our partners much more from cost reduction only to let's co-create, let's co-innovate. Another example is simulation modeling. Again, that was the result of phase 3. Then we got into another idea, which I call business sphere. The idea is the world is an environment where we get surrounded by real-time data. And the intent was to make decisions better and faster. So this is a room where a business team with finance, supply chain, sales, marketing, line management will get together to discuss a business issue. And the objective is to go immediately from the typical discussion on what is happening in the business to why it is happening and how to improve. So if, as an example, we are losing shares, market shares, with one of our customers, rather than debating different viewpoints on why that could be, we can drill down instantaneously to what the issues are. Is it support to the brand? Is it the consumer communication that doesn't work? Is the in-store support we do? Is it promotions? It is pricing. And so this environment basically drives a no excuse type of mindset, because all the right people are there and we have to converge on a decision fast. Again, much of this was the result of the strong alliances and the focus on innovation that was part of phase 3 of our model. With that, moving quickly to the way we see the world now, I wanted to give you this a short summary because we need to, in my opinion, we need to be careful that we don't throw away the baby with the bathwater. For us, there has been tremendous value in the traditional outsourcing, and then the idea to move strategic sourcing to a more strategic level of impact on the business and innovation. But where we are now, this is the way we see the world at this point. And again, as I said, I want to be very, very sincere and very, very candid. We believe we are in the BPO and ITO area. We are at an inflection point. Like for an inflection point, we can reinvent and go north, or we can stay the course, and oftentimes if we do that, we will end up going south. This inflection point is primarily generated, and I'm trying here to connect all the dots for you and to make the story as sequential as I can. What is driving the inflection point? The inflection point has been generated by what is called, and I'm sure you are familiar with the definition, VUCA world. We are in a world which is clearly from a social, political, economical, demographical, and of course, technological standpoint is becoming more and more complex, more and more ambiguous, more and more uncertain. This is a world where speed matters. And that's, by the way, why analytics are becoming so popular. In this world, there are new capabilities emerging all the time. Like for a time where there are new capabilities, there is always the impression that we are too busy with the work we are doing and there is no time to take advantage of what is available. Well, the reality is that, like for an inflection point, businesses who know how to leverage new capabilities or technologies and create new business models, those businesses are winning businesses. And again, I will not belabor this point because it is clear across a number of industries and sectors what has happened over the last 10 or 15 years. And I limited myself to 6 or 7, but we could go on and on and on and on. It is clear who is winning when there is an inflection point, and of course, who is not moving will become the proverbial boil frog. So with that, then what is the inflection point, the way we said in the BPO and ITO sector, what is happening, and the way we P&G see the way forward. The inflection point is generated primarily from new disruptive capabilities. And we are all very familiar with those. It's not just disruptive from a technology standpoint, but disruptive in the flexibility and the ability to commoditize what is in the end truly a commodity, and to drive for value, for distinctiveness, for relevance, what instead can create differentiation and business value. Some of the long-standing issues like security has been resolved. We are, like all of us, very nervous about cyber security and information. And the last 2 or 3 years have been amazing. I have learned a new world around information security. I'm sure you all have as well over the last 2 or 3 years. However, we need to make sure here that we don't overgeneralize. There is a lot of those issues, like I will cite an example, Gmail. Gmail 4 or 5 years ago, from a security standpoint, was an unrealistic proposition. Now Gmail is something that many companies are using 100%. And of course, from the 500 people that Google has on security and the people we have at P&G on security, there is no comparison. So we have to I believe, be open-minded and think long and hard about what is really an issue, what is going to resolve itself sometime soon. There are a number of new players entering the marketplace. These are nimble players. These are very agile players. And these are playing a very disruptive role in a good way. And I believe there is a growing overlap. I will not name names here, but it is clear that many of the key players in this sector, technology and sourcing and strategic sourcing, they are becoming more and more playing all in the same space. And this is creating a number of interesting dynamics. And it is making it very difficult for them themselves, because in some technology, in some areas, they are competitors, in some others, they are allies. It's, back to the VUCA world. This is, the result of ambiguity and complexity. But on the other hand, it is making it difficult also for their clients. And sometimes we find challenging an ability to get these partners of ours to collaborate for us and with us, because in turn they are competitors in some ways and allies in some others. So this is creating a bit of a schizophrenic situation. And then the ability to innovate seems to be shifting dramatically. And this is a big strategic consideration where I think we have to think long and hard, because this is in the end what really transforms and what fuels innovation in the business. So with this inflection point we're at, clearly in the last 10 years, businesses and companies who've been able to take advantage of an inflection point have been the winners across all sectors. And the inflection point related to this particularly BPO, ITO space, with that as a background and continuing from the journey we've been on, this is the way we see what is happening and what we have to think about and the way we've been approaching this area now. The three questions we are reflecting on. From a relationship architecture standpoint or relationship structure, what is now the most progressive one? What does that mean? What are the success criteria for a progressive relationship? How the commercial relationship could be structured to go hand in hand to support the intent on the business side. And finally, who are the real innovators for the near future, and what is the time horizon we should be looking at, because of the cycle time, as we all know, is accelerating significantly. So with that, we're moving into a fourth stage, which started about a year and a half ago. And again, the pictorial, the visual for this stage, as you can see now, is becoming fully blended. So what was the beginning, independent pillars, independent collaborators, then became more and more of a modular relationship, and finally now moving into a full blended integration. So what is the intent for this phase? Like we had an intent per each one of the previous ones. Well, I think is to take advantage and importantly continue to anticipate what is coming in the industry, and to the extent possible, and I'm saying this in a very humble way, continue to drive the industry changes. We need a whole new level of agility and operational excellence. It isn't any single glitch at this point is becoming very, very difficult to tolerate, because it's creating instantaneously a domino effect. So what we used to call service levels or reliability, we have to take to a whole new level, and importantly, no limit to how much more and how much faster we could or should innovate. Again, innovation is not about technology per se. Technology is a catalyst for change. Technology is an enabler, but the innovation needs to come, as always, from new business models. So with that, in finishing, three questions. One is, as I said, what is the most progressive relationship architecture? Is it the integrated vertical stack from platform, from infrastructure, all the way to app? development, or is it more specialized players? And my answer is, well, yes. My answer is yes. It is both. It is not inconceivable a model where some of the integrators will become more and more at the core of what is progressively becoming a commodity, and there will be satellites players who specialize in their individual domains. But this topology, there's a footprint, this layout is changing dramatically, and I believe this is going to, this is a key decision for the success of the BPU ITO industry in the future. And I believe that we do need to drive the inflection point and take it to new heights. And the second question is, who are the real innovators? And here, of course, we have all sorts of players. I'm listing just a few, but I have to say that the jury is out, the way I see it. We have, at the risk of embarrassing them, we have a very strong relationship with Verix, a company from Israel, very small company, specialized in translating into human language correlation of big data. Fractal from India, some of you might know them. We have a very strong relationship with them, and of course, TIPCO and the Spotfire product they have. So these are small players compared to the usual suspects. And it will be interesting to see over the next 1 to 2 years who is emerging as driving through new business values. And finally, my final question is, what is a truly an innovative model going forward? Because as you recall, this area started some 15 years ago with a time-driven model. Contracts used to be very tedious and very lengthy. We did with HP when we did the outsourcing in 2003 to 2004, so now 10 years ago, the contract we did was 12,000 pages. I remember when Carly, Fiorina, and I, in those days, signed the contract, we were, seated. There was a little ceremony because it was the largest IT deal ever, and they brought the contract, was 2.5 feet. We had to stand up to sign it. And I'm glad we did what we did, because it did force us to have conversations and clarity on the individual work processes, on the financial penalties, on the service level. So I'm glad we did what we did, but the one single time we needed to go back to the contract for a discussion, we didn't find what we were looking for. So it is. So there is clearly a limit in that approach, and I am submitting that probably these agreements need to be less legalistic. And I remember negotiations many years ago. One of the players at some point, we had more of their lawyers than engineers in these discussions, and look, enough is enough. I simply don't think we're going down the right path. But the idea was we have a time-driven cycle. Used to be 10 years, became 5 years, now is shortening up. But I'm wondering whether we shouldn't change the game completely. It's not about how fast we run, it's about how we run. And I believe that a more interesting model is goal-driven. So we establish together a certain set of deliverables, of business goals, and when we do achieve those, then it is time to renew the contract, to renew the agreement, and then do it in a way that set the bar to a new level and to new heights. So I am going to close out here, so still have 15, 20 minutes in case you have any questions or anything you want to talk. If not, I will happily give you 20 minutes back. But fundamentally, I hope I was able to give you a sense of why strategic partnerships, in my opinion, continue to be extremely important, and now more than ever. I think it would be dangerous to swing the pendulum from one extreme to the other, and now rethinking about reinsourcing or sourcing in a different way. I'm not personally, with all my respect for all viewpoints, I'm not in the camp. However, I believe there is a big change required. The stages, the phases of evolution we have gone through have really served us very well. We are thankful to our partners. We are very, very grateful to them. We wouldn't be where we are without them. The interdependency we've been able to create has been significant and very strategic in many ways. But now it's time to take it to a new level. And I think the challenge and the opportunity is who is going to drive innovation, pretty much like we have seen with mega projects like integration of Gillette in a record time, or new technologies like visualization, virtualization, which have created a lot of value for Procter & Gamble. But now, who are the innovators of the future? What kind of architecture in the relationship we should have? So how could the different players operate like an integrated network fish rather than being competing fishes, or the small fish and the fast, or the slow? And then importantly, from a commercial relationship standpoint, isn't now the time to move from a legalistic, time-driven commercial setup to a more liberating, to a more strategic, to truly a win-win, goal-driven relationship. So yes, partnerships are critical as ever. The how, however, the how is changing significantly. With that, we have 15 minutes for the better part of the session, which is the interaction rather than the monologue. Perfect. Thank you.
Hi, Filippo. Lee Coulter, by the way. Question about your early years in the work of centralization. It's noisy business. The work of centralization brings out all of the things that have been swept under the rugs over the past however many years that the business has been running, particularly when you do this across a decentralized business. And the work of moving everybody onto a common platform and common processes, a lot of resistance to that. And so there's a change curve and some organizational noise generated by that. And I'm interested from a time perspective. You talk about being relevant and creating value. Yeah. There's a certain initial value envisioned in that centralization effort. Yeah. How long was it, and what words do you have for those of us who are in the process of moving the organization through the change to the point where they will even listen to the conversation about value creation and relevance?
This is, I think you're asking a very good question. And please correct me if I didn't get it completely. But this is what happened, and this is, again, a bit of story behind the story. When we did the first outsourcing, that created a lot of anxiety in the organization, a lot of anxiety. And I remember that was the time I moved into my role, and the reaction, very candidly, of people was, we have saved hundreds of millions of dollars for Procter & Gamble. Why don't we stay the course and continue to perfect what we're doing? My position was, I as a shareholder, as a leader, I feel an obligation to do it. Is not just for cost. It is about flexibility. It is about agility. It is about freeing up our mind to innovate. As a CIO, if I was running operations, I think I would easily spend 30–40% of my time on daily work. I am now spending probably 5% of my time, and I can dedicate my energy because for all my people. So that was a deliberate change. But I told people then, and again, I'm making a long story short here because you can imagine all the conversations. I said I will do it, but I commit to do 3 things. I commit to do it fast. I commit to find the right employer for you, and I commit to negotiate the best HR conditions. So when we did these 3 first deals with HP, Jones Lang LaSalle for facilities, and IBM for HRO, all the employees got a job offer, same salary, same benefits as P&G. Now, some P&Gers didn't like to move, which, thanks God they liked Procter & Gamble a lot. But if you're an IT professional and you go to Hewlett Packard, same salary, same benefit. It is probably as good as it gets, particularly in 2003, 2004. And I have to say, employees were very appreciative of that. But then the question became, is it the last one? Are we done? Can we go back to life as usual? And my answer was that there is not such a thing anymore as life as usual. If we want to stay in control, there is only one way to go. We have to be distinctive in the business, because the word distinctiveness is the opposite to commodity. If we become a commodity, we are up for cost. So we need to play a distinctive role in the business. We have to be unique, and that's how this idea of being relevant can be. And then I said, and I hope I'm now with this preamble answering your question, but I thought that was an important background, because now you will probably understand why we did what we did. I said the only way not to fear change is to institutionalize change. So we make change a strategy. And so every 2.5 years, we obsolete our business model by design, and we reinvent it. And so people are always up for change. And what I tell them, look, don't agonize over this change, because if we don't like it, we undo. Relax. Don't think that you have to stick with this change for the rest of your life. And if you don't like it, you better find another job. Because if you don't like it, we go back. Or if you don't like it, we change again in 2 years from now. And by paradox, as much as unsettling this approach may sound, it has been incredibly effective for people, because now change is in our DNA, and people embrace a change. And like for anything, 70% of the people will be ready to move, 20% will need some help, the other 10% may elect not to move, and they will have to do something else in life. But fundamentally, this model is what is keeping the organization constantly fresh, constantly up to speed. Did I answer your question? Wonderful, thank you. Yes, sir.
And this will be the last question.
All right, and then we have a few other questions during cocktail.
Thanks for the opportunity to ask you a question. So one of the things you talked about change a lot. So what are the key metrics that you use to make sure change is happening more of the main course rather than happenstance? For example, are you cannibalistic about your own products and services to drive a clear distinction between staying the course versus forcing innovation?
It is. So the way we operate is the following. We always look, because your question is how you describe the strategies, how you drive strategy change, and this is your question, right? So the way we operate is as follows. We look at the trends that are affecting the world. And of these trends, those that are having an impact on our business, because not all of them will, some will. So now we are into step 2. Of those trends that have an impact on our business, then we ask ourselves, what are those that we can impact? And so we're into step 3. Step 4 is what strategies will enable us to make an impact on the business. And then 5th, what is the technologies that will enable that? So we never start with the cool and latest technology. We always start with what is the transformation within Procter & Gamble that we want to drive. And so if you, as an example, if you look at visualization and the idea to eliminate physical mock-ups through virtual consumer testing, the idea came from the need to accelerate product innovation to market. So we said, how can we take out 2 or 3 months from our typical innovation cycle, and we found that there's time and physical mock-ups. So this is the way we sequence this part. Perfect. Hey, thank you very much again. It's been great.